Hello, so I decided to do a video for my second paper instead of writing one. I'm just going to talk about my encounter with the law and how my engagement with LPS has changed my understanding of law. Either it could be like it either reaffirmed it or it challenged it. Now, my understanding of law ever since I was in Africa is that either it could be three things. It can work for you, it could cost you your life, or it could when I say like cost you your life, either you're dead. And then the third thing that it can do is it can act as a form of subjugating you or social control. Now the two main ways that I have encountered that I've ever encountered law is either it has been a form of subjugation or social control, or it has been a significant cost in my life. I'm still alive, so I'm not dead, so it has not costed my life per se, but it has tapped into my income in a way that has made it difficult for me to continue to live the life that I am normally used to, even though it's not great, but it's like normally used to. So I remember one time when I was going to work and I got stopped by the police officer, and so he asked me for my information. He stated that I was speeding, and I'm very aware that I was speeding. Of course, I told him that the reason why I was speeding was because I was going to work. He did not seem sympathetic at all. He rather just brushed it behind him and just said, "Oh, I would like to see your information just to make sure that this car is yours, that you have, the car registered under your name, that you have a driver's license." And I was very okay with providing that information to him. So I went ahead and provided that information to him. And I remember that he asked for my insurance card, my proof of insurance. And when he did ask me for my proof of insurance, my mother contacted me. Now, she didn't know that I had been stopped, but she just called me. And of course, my mom does not speak English, or she can't really navigate America the way that normal people do, because she doesn't speak the language that is primarily used in order to communicate with other people. So she calls me if she has a question, or if somebody called her, or if she has a problem. So I assumed that when she contacted me that it was because something was going on. So I told the police officer that I do have not a picture, but I have my insurance card on my phone on the app for Progressive. So, but I also told him that since my mom is calling me, let me just go ahead and tell her that I'm okay, everything is good, and that I'll contact her back, and then I can proceed to provide you with that information. The police officer went ahead and told me to just go ahead and speak to my mom, and that he is going to put the information that he has so far into the system. So he went back into his car. He came back 7 minutes later after I had spoken to my mom and told her that everything was okay. And I had already pulled out my insurance card ready for him to see that, I do have insurance as well. Now, when he did come back, he had 2 tickets. He had one for speeding, and another one for lack of proof of insurance. Now, when I saw the first one for speeding, I was like, okay, normal. And when I saw the one for the insurance, I was like, sir, I had specifically told you that my mom is calling me. Let me just tell her that everything is okay, and I'll be able to just show you my insurance card, which is on my phone on the app for Progressive. And he said it doesn't matter at this point. I either am going to accept the tickets, or I can get out of the car. And when he said to get out of my car, I was really scared. I'm like, are you trying to arrest me? Like, what's going on? I just simply was trying to explain to you the situation. And he handed me the papers, and he's like, you need to sign here. You need to sign here. I'm like, sir, why am I signing for the insurance? I can sign for the ticket because it was obvious that I was speeding. I've also just told you that, yes, I do recognize that I was speeding, but I do have a proof of insurance I can provide to you and just show you. And it was like, you can take that to the court. If you have an insurance, a proof of insurance, or if you have insurance per se, you can take that up to the court and speak to the judge so that you don't have to pay for the ticket. Now I was really frustrated, but I knew that if I continued to aggravate the police officer anymore, it could end up two ways. It could cost me my life, or I could end up in jail. And both of those two things were not something that I wanted. Those were not in my cards, and there were options that I was not willing to take. So I readily agreed and signed the papers and went about my way, and he went about his way. Now, I remember that when I did go to court, I was informed that I had to pay a $60 fee for my court visit, both for the ticket as well, both for each tickets. So I had to pay $120 on top of the ticket itself. I was able to provide my proof of insurance, of course, and I explained to the judge, like, specifically what was happening, and the judge was like, why didn't this get taken care of when you were stopped? And I tried to explain to the judge, like, hey, I tried to talk to the officer, but he did not give me the chance. But she also just kind of like brushed that information and didn't really care and said, let me see your proof of insurance, provided it, and then it was done. Now, my encounter with the judge was pretty quick. It was in, out. But before I even got to see the judge, I had to wait like 2 hours before I could even see the judge. And that really was a huge inconvenience for me because I had class early in the morning and I was not able to attend that. By the time my first class was over, I was supposed to go to work. And when the judge called us was the time when I was supposed to be at work. And at that time, I could not go to work because I had to meet the judge so I could pay for my other ticket and then provide the information that I have for my insurance. But unfortunately, I was not even able to go to work. That day specifically costed me a lot on my income, on my earnings, because I could not able to go to work and earn the money that I needed in order to pay specifically for that ticket, my ticket that I got for speeding, or even for court fees. And I also had to pay court fees for something that was so inconvenient. Like I could just provide my insurance to the police officers, and it would have been fixed immediately. However, the police officer didn't want to do that. And I did notice that ever since I've had that encounter with that police officer, the law has really operated to its fullest function, because my encounter with the law has really controlled the way that I act when I'm in traffic. If it says 40, I drive at 40 or less than 40, okay, 35 and up to 40. That's about it. And whenever I see the police officer, I even go slower than what it says. So if he says 40 and I was going at 40, I go at 35, because I really don't want to have any negative encounter with the law at all, because my encounter with the law since I got here in the U.S. has always been negative. And if I have any sort of encounter with the law that puts my life at risk, my well-being at risk, or jeopardizes my earnings and my income, it's an interaction that I do not want to have. And I think that's why I have been complying with whatever the law requires of me as a citizen of the U.S. And sometimes I do understand that compliance kind of like messes a little bit with my day-to-day life, because there's sometimes where I really need to go somewhere quickly, and going at 45 should not be an issue for me. Going at 45 at a place that says 40 should not be an issue for me, because it's not interfering with anyone's life. However, it's interfering with my life. I did talk about how there's two ways that the law has worked with me, either through social control or also kind of like being a cost on my life. So what I will say is that in terms of being costly, is just that my interaction with the law has always been it takes. It takes. It doesn't give. It subjugates me, if that's the thing that you want to say that it's giving me. Like, I'm much more subjugated. I'm reminded of my place in society, that I am nothing. I am nothing without the law. The law is a tool used to kind of like tell me specifically where I belong, what I do, and what I do not do. That is a rule book for me. The law is specifically a rule book for me, and it subjugates me. It limits what I can and cannot do. But what it also does is that anytime that I have an encounter with the law, there's a cost. There's something that it takes away from me. It takes away my earnings. It takes away my educational opportunities, or it takes something else from me. And one thing that it really has taken away from me from my other previous encounter with the law is my social standing within the society. These things, that every encounter that I have with the law is a marker. It stays there. And anyone, whether it's an employer, anyone within the society is able to access that information, and then can either judge me based on those information. And it's ruining, I don't want to say it's ruining my life, but it has marked me as a deviant person within society, even though I'm not a deviant person. It has marked me as a person who does not comply with law, even though I do comply with law. I do try to comply with law. And when I do not comply with law, I do take full responsibility for it. Of course, I do believe that when you do not comply with law, you should take full responsibility, which is something that I've done. But when it does kind of like encroach into my life and starts ruining not only my education, my job, and also my social standing, and within society, my social standing, it's really taking a significant part of my life, and I'm not getting anything back other than being subjugated once more, other than being told like, oh, you tried to step where you do not belong. You tried to use the law how it should not be used. The law is not used for your advantage. It's used to control what you can and cannot do. And I guess that's how it's operated in my life. And I have seen that because even when I was taking the LPS, we're talking about how law can act as a form of social control, how law does not necessarily operate for everyone, how we operates differently for rich people, and how we operates for poor people, and how it impacts people from different social standings. And what I was learning in LPS is exactly what I was seeing in my own life. And I wasn't surprised, of course. I wasn't surprised. This is not something new. The same encounter with the law that I've had in the US is the same encounter with the law that I've had in Africa. It was rather just kind of like reaffirmed my understanding of law. Now, I would rather it challenged it or changed it, because when you come here in the US, you're told land of opportunities, yes, great, yes, whatever. But it doesn't turn out that way. And then it kind of like just makes you like, oh, okay, so what makes you different from what I've experienced before? And basically, that's kind of like how I've encountered law.